What up world, DigiDread on the mic. It's BT14 release day. Our boy BT6 Savior is off the ban list. So we have to go in for a deep dive. I've been cooking in the lab like Breaking Bad for so long, and I'm happy to be sharing you my Jesmon GX Turbo Focus build. Yes guys, don't worry, I know that there's two variants now. We've got the OTK Magic, which is pretty discovered of what that is. It's just BT6 with a splash of new cards. But this right here is going to be something a little bit different, and the way I've constructed the deck and the playstyle that I've developed is essentially going to ensure that we are ready for the meta. So if this is the video for you as I go into my ratios, tech, all the recommendation cards that I'm going to throw in there as well at each stage, then stick around and enjoy. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, make sure you subscribe and set the notification bell because I do videos on the reg. So let's dive straight into the actual eggs. The eggs are going to be still the BT4 Sukunamon. An absolutely fantastic egg right here because our main focus is going into Jesmon GX. So in order for us to gain 1 memory when attacking, if we're level 7, is just absolutely beneficial, making sure that when we are making that unbreakable board or trying to make that unbreakable board, it means that we're giving the opponent less memory to do so. On top of that, which is quite an important interaction now that we do have the BT6 Savior unrestricted, is that realistically at times we can actually attack twice. And the good thing about Jesmon, which makes him quite a menace in this format, is that being able to attack unsuspended really hinders any form of ace plays that the opposition might be thinking about. Because we can obviously evo into our Jesmon X antibody, going for a swing and unsuspend with our BT6 Savior, we haven't actually met this condition yet to gain that memory. But then if we evoed into a GX and then trigger the Blitz, then we will gain that memory back because we meet the condition that we are now at level 7 and then can gain that memory. So this is why this is absolutely solid as an egg. Obviously you can run the Digimon, but realistically I feel like if you're going for the draw, you are pretty much high rolling at that point if you're going with a Jesmon GX build. Realistically you will have all the cards in hand in order for you to essentially pop off and, you know, build out that board how you want to build out, depending on obviously your opponent. But it's completely up to you. One thing I want to say is that this video is not me stating that you should be running this particular build. It's just basically a framework of how you can adapt it to your own playstyle. So going on to the rookies. So rookies have not really necessarily changed that much, but the way you're playing your rookies out is going to be slightly different. So obviously we do run the BT6 hook. That's obviously going to be your primary searcher. Reveal top 5 is huge. Ideally this is going to be just you basically grabbing your cards and you could, well, basically your combo pieces. The thing that you want to be using Hookmon for though is that because of the cards that we use in this build, ideally you want to be at least getting a sister from the search, because now that we have got that BT6 Savior unrestricted, it does require us to have a sister in hand in order to obviously get the benefit of its when Digivolving effect. So realistically you do want to be grabbing at least 1 sister if you've not already got 1 in hand. If you've got plenty in hand, then just obviously grab your combo pieces as standard. Then we go in with the BT14 hook. This is just the best hook that you want in raising. Realistically, there's no other inheritable that you want apart from this. Just when you play a sister, gain the memory is huge in this deck. Obviously, for us going to our top end, we want to be clawing back enough memory so we're not giving a ton of memory to the opponent. This will always stay. Obviously, as well, its actual turn effect of when we do play a sister, we can evo into our hook for free is massive, but 9 times out of 10 it's very rare that it does go off. But when it does, it means that the opponent has to kind of get rid of this, because, you know, we can literally snowball if we do have the right cards in play in order for us to essentially climb up the stages with this particular Hookmon. Then we do run the 2 security Hookmon. So this right now in testing has proved to be a fantastic addition. Realistically, you could run the starter Hookmon, having 1000 DP, it can come off quite nicely. You could run the BT7 Hookmon, but the reason why I don't like running that one is because 9 times out of 10, I've already got the sisters that I want to pop off. I don't need to draw any more sisters at that point. And then you're at a risk of obviously bottom decking a lot of your cards there as well. And because we run probably a slightly less sisters in this build, there's not really much of the value. But this actually comes up quite a lot, surprisingly, even at 2. Is because if it's propped from your security at the end of battle, so the battle still happens, so if they're going in with a 1k rookie, for example, you actually have deleted that. And then you are able to delete a Digimon with 4000 DP or less. So for the Bloom matchup, this could come clutch in removing a Pomomon, which is annoying because obviously, you know, we want to be playing cards by effects, and that actually stops that. If a card wasn't deleted by this effect, you're able to draw one, which once again can help with unbricking your hand. There has been times where you've got the combos set up, you've got your Master Disciples, your trainings ready in the back, but you just can't get to get to pop off because you're just missing one piece. This has come up quite a few times in order for me to essentially just top deck a champion, which is massive. And then you're able to then add this card to hand. So just keeps your security a little bit spicy right there. One thing I just want to mention before we go over to the Systemons is that obviously, you know, I'm not naive to the meta. I mean, now that we've got a lot of go wide decks, you know, we still have our honorary member that we could throw in, being obviously your Solomon. This is just going to be great for obviously just stopping Defex from coming out and blowing up our board. I feel like because Feralugumon is going to be meta prevalent and it's pretty much just a Jess in purple clothing, a lot of decks are going to tech in Solomon. Obviously we've got Commander on there that is a very go wide deck. Defex is going to be prevalent, so we want to make sure that obviously we do kind of counter that with our Solomons. From our actual options that we do have, we can actually grab Solomon a little bit more consistently. So obviously, depending on how the meta shapes up, Solomon is a great card to obviously add into the build there. And then lastly, another recommendation would be the actual Gamamon BT8. So the thing that's really good with this, ignore it essentially is on play. Well, it's on play, it's actually your turn effect, because that will never come up because we don't run any red tamers in the deck, but its actual inheritable is great for removal, being the thing, and it's not conditional to us playing the sister like BT6 Battle Hook, because if this Digimon has 6000 DP or more, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. So obviously if we are versing a lot of Bloom, Rosemon, because they have got support in BT14, this actually can come up quite nicely. This is not a once per turn effect, so now that we do have BT6 Savior, we can effectively get rid of white boards whilst attacking into their unsuspended Digimon. So once again, it adds a bit of more control element to Jesmon now, because attacking and unsuspended is quite a powerful effect, which not many decks actually do. Jesmon is definitely probably one of the kings for attacking unsuspended Digimon. But these are ones that you could obviously replace from your security Hookmon. Really depends on how the meta shapes up. Realistically, you know, this will probably be the standard kind of build if we find that Blue Flare Defex is being pretty prevalent in BT14. But the thing I do like about just this one is the fact that it has got Hookmon in name, which helps with searchability and consistency. So getting back on track here, we do also for the sisters, we do run the BT6 Blanc and then obviously our starter deck Blanc there as well. Obviously having the blocker, draw one, really crucial for the M board, and then your Systemon Blanc starter deck, that decoy is massive depending on obviously your matchups. We do have Beelzemon, that he's going to be a bit of a menace right there. So for us, this is kind of like our little delicate plan on legs a little bit. It means that if we do trip up into an option that potentially deletes us, it means that we can obviously decoy this and protect our main stack, which is pretty huge right there. Obviously, we do need to watch out in this meta that, you know, anything that's deletes by level is quite easy pickings with your Systemons because they are level 3. Most decks can pretty much pick off your level 3 rookies, but if it goes by DP, that's where these are a little bit more stickier, depending on obviously what you've done with your GX combo. So that concludes for the rookies there. going over to the champions. So champions, obviously our key one that we do want in our stack is going to be the BT14 Bow. Absolutely fantastic. Similar inheritable to BT14 Hook, is that gain that memory once you play sister. Just that refund value is huge. With BT6 Savior as well, obviously when Digivolving play a sister, playing like a BT6 CL in combination with this is pretty much just give you a free Evo at that point, because you'll gain more memory from the BT6 CL, and then you also gain the 2 memory from your Hook and your Bow. Really, really strong there. Obviously, it's on play. Your turn effect is good, but 9 times out of 10, you know, we just kind of want to be keeping him in raising, making sure we've obviously got our stack to then kind of pop off when we do go into our ultimates. Then a solid bow is going to be the BT6 bow. We do run it at 3. Because realistically, sometimes we just want to see this. We really do want to see this. This is good, depending obviously on your matchup. If we do run into Bloom, we do run into Rosemon, this is obviously going to be helpful for us, because the inheritable is when we do have a system out on field, we're able to delete a 5k DP or less Digimon. Like I mentioned before with the recommendations, obviously we do have Gamamon as an option. It means that we can obviously be a bit more controlly in terms of just wiping out wide boards. You know, if we're versing, you know, Commandramon, for example, we could potentially use Gamamon to delete a 3k DP or less, and then use a Bow Hookmon to delete a 5k or less, and then we can also be swinging into another Commandramon out on field with our Jesmon X antibody. So really great ways to essentially control the field and preventing any form of like ace plays there as well, because you know there is a lot of aces kind of rocking about this format, and especially we do have some additional promo ones there as well. See how the meta shapes up, but yeah, I feel like they are a solid bow lineup right there. And then in regards to the sisters, so Systemon CL BT6, obviously staple, that memory gain is huge, and that DP boost is huge there as well. Obviously the BT10 CL, that's obviously our main facilitator to kind of get into our GX, get into the combo flow and all that good stuff. It's probably undervalued because of the actual, it's when it's after it's done its massive combo. If this is actually still on the field, it can be pretty pretty nice gaining memory when we essentially evoed into a Hookmon. Essentially anything with Hookmon in its name or Royal Knight in its traits, we will gain that memory, which is really, really nice. And I think that's what some people do forget about the BT10 CL and kind of leave it unchecked, because they think that this one's the menace, where this one is equally menacing there too. And then we do run the one Systemon CL starter deck. This is good, but now that we have BT6 Savior at full power, you're not so much reliant on this, but this enables you to either go more aggressive when you are essentially at your top end, if you do have it in hand, or if we don't, it means that effectively we can kind of utilize BT6 Saviors unsuspend as what this would be doing. Obviously it does give us reboot, so it's a difference between us swinging twice and then obviously making sure that we have a System on CL to reboot, or essentially swinging once if we don't have that. So the reason why we obviously want to shorten down the Systemons a little bit is more due to, one, we've got cards that essentially are going to be searching out more red. So our main goal isn't necessarily to do a Chimeramon play as such. It's more to ensure that we can be consistent and fast whilst building our unbreakable board and leaving the opponent with less memory to do stuff. Or if they can manage to essentially break our board, then make it more pressurizing for the opponent to essentially do something about the GX, because now GX can essentially attack twice with the BT6 Savior in stack. As long as there's a system on out, then you know that's obviously going to be another benefit right there. Obviously some other recommendations, obviously you can flex the ratios of these ones. I feel like if you was going to add another champion in, System on CL is always a good one to have. That memory gain is pretty huge. It just facilitates that kind of M board and ensures that you can claw back a bit more memory. Ideally, end board wise, you want to kind of leave them, if you can leave them at 2, banging. If you can leave them at 3, that's pretty much worth, because if they've got a memory setter out, 3 is pretty decent. Anything higher than that, that's where you kind of like, you know, they can pretty much break your board, but obviously we do have kind of options and text that we can do in order for them to have less options. You can run obviously more barrel hook, but with that you have the chance of just seeing it too much, which is it should it should be good, because obviously you want to be and that consistency, but because we just are mainly just kind of making that one stack, you want to make sure that one stack is the perfect stack, being the thing. And obviously you've got your BT10 CL, which just obviously facilitates more of that combo, but 9 times out of 10 we can pretty much combo up quite nicely anyway, so that's the reason why we do just run the BT10 CL just at 2 now instead of 3. So going over to the ultimates, so ultimates, we're going in with the 4 saviors, BT6 edition, back in action. We got the 2 BT13 saviors, and then we do have the 1 Chimera. Yes, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, whoa, Chimera, what are you doing? And you know what? Rightfully so. Chimera is an absolutely amazing card to facilitate some awesome plays. And don't you worry, guys. I do have another 2 there chilling. But what I've found is that what I'm trying to do here is really focus on that GX and that M board, but adding so much pressure that they have to essentially remove the GX somehow, because BT6 Savior really adds a lot of aggression to GX, because effectively it enables us to attack twice. Attacking twice with, you know, 3 checks underneath our belt is massive. So realistically, say back when we didn't have this at full power, what would happen is that, say if you go to your M board, they somehow kind of like stall out the game, or add like a blocker or something that's preventing you from essentially clearing game, or preventing you from clearing game. Now that we have this, we can essentially swing, get rid of whatever blocker they threw out to prevent us from actually getting game, and then swing again. It just adds so much pressure now that you have to get rid of GX. It's not a matter of like I can just stall out GX and he's left there. You have to get rid of him. On top of that, Savior actually adds a lot of makes you faster. Just coming out of raising and essentially kind of popping off a little bit earlier is pretty sick. Also adds a bit of control element for your Jesmon plays as well. Also adds a conditional 8k pop deletion with your BT13 Jess, because you're able to obviously trigger it when digivolving, get a system on out. Depending on what system, what stack you've got, you can either regain 3 memory, 2 memory, 1 memory, etc. And then when you evo into your Jesmon BT13 version, it means that you have at least 2 bodies out that you can effectively then pop in 8k, which is going to pop in ultimate, which ultimately is going to prevent them from either going into a, for example, a Melga Ace play, because you've popped them, you've not attacked into them, so they can't actually just trigger the Ace. You've got rid of that stack, which is handy. You've got rid of anything lower than that stack as well, and also you can delete a wider board, because Jesmon BT13 isn't conditional to just one body at 8k, it's basically the total of that. So if you are versing Bloom or Commander one that goes wide, it just gives you a bit more of a higher threshold to do some popping, which is great. So this is the reason why I do run this at 4. I think it's an absolutely fantastic card. Our main goal, or main kind of play style, is essentially setting up ready for us to essentially go into this. Because realistically, when we are going to our GX play, we want to be just making sure that we can still consistently build a wider board, but also control the opponent's board, so they can't necessarily do that much with the bodies that they might not have left on field once I'm done. Then we do run the 2 Savior Hook 1 BT13, still a solid one. I think this one's easily better than the starter deck one, just because you do have more lines of play, which is nice, whilst the inheritable is exactly the same. Realistically, you know, you want to be just going into this one just for that unsuspend tech right there, but this is not necessarily that bad either, because it means that you can just get more system ons out to essentially make sure that you've built a wide enough board for them to not answer. Then we do still run the one Chimeramon. Chimeramon's a weird one, and I feel like it's a bit of a weird one due to the user's, let's just say, look. I'm finding that now that I'm actually running one, I'm seeing Chimeramon more, and I don't know why. And it's the same with CL, like the Star Deck CL. I'm seeing them when I need to see them, which is nice. If I manage to get it in my first hand, banging. If I don't, I don't. I don't think it's necessarily, it's a strong card. I understand its application. So before the comments fly in, I do understand obviously if we are versing Blue Flare, it does get us out of the stuns. That's absolutely fine. But we do have ways that we can prevent us not being targeted by stun, which is quite nice. And 9 times out of 10, I've just got to essentially play to the strengths and ensure that I can be consistently getting up the line. Because most of the times, the reason why I actually lose with Jess is purely just because I can't build a line. that is 9 times out of 10 it. And it's, you know, it's the red factor. It's what red does. It bricks, unfortunately. So what I'm trying to do is just improve that overall consistency, ensuring that we can actually just get to our top end. And then obviously if we do have Chimera on hand, that is going to be like my hybrid source right there. Though obviously going into the recommendation piece, obviously we still do have obviously our 2 BT14 saviors. Obviously you can flick the ratios. I feel like this is a very solid ratio. 3-3 is also great, but I feel like you want to lean more into what your main game plan is, and that's obviously going to be your going into your BT6 savior, and then ensuring that your GX can swing twice next round, so it adds a lot of pressure, a lot of board presence that the opponent once again has to answer. And then obviously we still do have our Chimeramons that we can obviously just flex the ratios if need be. Obviously the standard like formula is always the 2 Chimeras, and I think that's absolutely fine. I think in Jesmon OTK, I think 3 Chimeramons realistically, because what you're trying to do with that is that the turn that you are basically popping off is the turn that you should be ending game. If you're not ending game, you failed the OTK in my eyes. So that concludes for the ultimates as standard. So going on to the Megas. The Megas, you probably already guessed what we're going on with here. So we'll start with the top end. Obviously, it's going to be our 3 Jesmon GXs. Yes, we still run 3 because it is our main condition of winning. We do run the 3 Jesmon X Antibody. We do run the 2 Ganku X Antibody, which once again, obviously depending on how the meta goes, you could knock that up to 3 if needs be. And then we do run the 1 Jesmon BT14. And then the new spicy sauce is going to be actually our Craniumon at 1. And I feel like this is just ultimately a flex spot to any form of Raw Knight, depending on obviously how the meta's going to shape up. So let's talk about what all these cards do as a unit, let's just say, because they all play a prevalent part in regards to countering the meta, and all have its applications. So let's start off obviously with our classic Gankumon. Gankumon, strong, always strong. I didn't realize how strong this was because this actually prevents decks from being put back to deck. I mean, cards being put back to deck, which is brilliant in that sense. DP reduction, no bounce, bringing my whole stack to or my cards back to the deck. It's great, absolutely fantastic. This single-handedly just says no to Shine and no to Mirage, which once again they are going to be meta relevant in BT14 just because they've got trainings, which just adds that bit of consistency right there. Obviously we've got Shine that can ultimately use both of the freaking trainings, so they could run freaking 8 training cards in total and rarely whiff. Obviously our Jesmon X Antibody with combination with BT6 Savior now. How I use this card is definitely more of a control element, because it's when digivolving is that if I have a Systemon out on the field, one, I'm able to gain 2000 DP, which is great, always delicious. Obviously I can play a Systemon from hand or trash, which is once again really good. I have that option to, you know, utilize my trash as well as my hand, whereas the normal Jesmon Star Deck Jesmon is all based on hand. And then all my Digimon are able to attack unsuspended, which is pretty huge with the BT6 Savior, because it enables us to swing into unsuspended Digimon and then restand, being pretty massive. means that we can get rid of potential ace plays or stop them from using their ace plays, because effectively we are attacking into them. Obviously we track our, we essentially use our when attacking effects, and then that's when the ace trigger comes up if they want to ace. Obviously if they're going to ace, they're either gonna have to have DP higher than it or do something that can essentially mitigate the play, being the thing. 9 times out of 10 they probably won't do an ace play, because they will effectively give us memory by doing so. Obviously depending on what the ace is, so there is obviously going to be Magna, which minuses the DP of the attacking Digimon by, or any Digimon, or whatever the opponent wants to put it to which goes based on their security stack. So depending on that, obviously Magna Ace is at 8k by memory, so obviously depending on if they're at 5, that's obviously quite a massive reduction, but realistically, because we've had an additional 2k increase based on the when digital oven effect, and if we actually pulled out a system on CL, we can still actually swing over it, which is nice. It's exactly what I want to be doing, because we've obviously got a mad boost right there. But like I say, it is depending on what their security is. Apparently they can recover quite a lot. But then we do have the Jesmon BT14, and as I mentioned before, the reason why I like this is because he can actually just essentially stop the ace play outright, because we're not attacking into them to trigger that ace play, we're actually popping them before they even give a goddamn chance to, because you know we will have the BT6 Savior that's pulled that system on. We evo into this if we have enough memory, and then effectively be able to pop an 8k DP or less Digimon, or obviously depending on how wide their board is, obviously can pop multiple Digimon. Really handy. This is so good, and we can also use it with our GX play there as well, and actually obliterate a wider board if necessary. So really good application right there, and this is why I do like the Jesmon GX build, just because I like having the options to just kind of remove or stop potential plays from happening. Then Craniumon. Craniumon is very interesting in what it does, and I think it's a great option to have in your back pocket, because what Craniumon enables your Jesmon GX stack to have is that it can't be, or you can essentially, you can't be affected by your Digimon's effects to the end of the opponent's turn. So quite big here, because realistically, if we are versing blue flare, for example, they can't they can't stun us with their effects. They can stun us with an option, that's not a problem at all. But by Digimon, they can't do that. If you combo Craniumon with Ganku X Antibody, then that really bottlenecks what they can do to actually get rid of your GX, because they can't DP minus you, they can't bounce you, they can't tuck you back to the opponent's to your deck, and this is all by Digimon. Well, that would be by Digimon and also by options. And then with this, obviously they can't do that by Digimon effects. The only thing that can actually get rid of your stack at that point is a deletion based option. And 9 times out of 10, not many decks run a deletion based option that is going to not give you so much memory for you to kind of claw back your turn whilst still having other Digimon out on the field. It leaves the opponent in a pretty much a sticky predicament, and because we do have BT6 Savior in stack, we can be then just basically checking for 6 checks at that point, which is massive. Once again, the aim of Jesmon GX is always about building that M board, but making it really uncomfortable for them to get rid of that. The thing I do like about Craniumon here as well is that, say with Feralugumon pops based on level. Anything that's based on level, this is where it makes it very easy to kind of obliterate a board, because level-based deletion, which Purple are pretty much known for, can get rid of a lot of Digimon. We can boost our Systemons our Jesmons to amazing heights, but doesn't matter if you can just pop a level 4, 5, or 6, or 7. Feralugmon can do that, but obviously because that's a Digimon effect, that's protected by Craniumon. So really handy to have Craniumon there to kind of prevent your board, or not your board, but your main stack at least getting deleted. Granted, you know, Feralugmon can still blow up your Systemons, every other deck can still blow up Systemons or whatever, but if you have these two, that's going to make that very hard for them to do, because they can't effectively just minus DP my Systemons, because they'll have the Gankumon protection. So we have great ways in order for us to essentially use all these cards in any given situation, which is why I like the Jesmon GX Turbo build still. So that concludes for the Ultimates. Obviously, another recommendation like I mentioned, you can just run a free split on the Jesmon X Antibody and Ganku if needs be. It's completely up to you, and I think it's more how the meta is going to shape up being the thing there. So let's go over to the options. The options, we're going to have a talk about this, because there's been a lot of speculation on Discord and so forth about this, and I really want to kind of have that discussion now. So options: free offensive training or offense training, and then 4 Master Disciple. So I already know what people are thinking here. Like the trainings effectively can bottom deck your sisters, which they can. I'm not going to say they can't. They can, though. It's basically how you play the game, which makes this very effective. Realistically, if you don't have any sisters in hand, probably don't play this card out yet. Probably go with this one, because this one can search out your entire deck pretty much, minus your Chimeramon, and also your offense training. But the thing that I like about offense training is that it actually makes the deck in your hands a little bit more bearable. Nothing's worse than having a Jesmon break. Like, it happens quite a lot. Now that we have ways to consistently search out pieces at a decent range, that we're not just bottom decking quite a lot of our pieces, we can combine them both together. Offensive training can search out dig 2, and it can search out a red card from amongst them. So if you happen to get, I don't know, let's just say we reveal Chimeramon and a Master Disciple, we can actually pick up that Master Disciple, and then we can use that Master Disciple. That's mad tempo for your next pop-off turn, because the reason why is that effectively you can use these in combination, but you have to use this one first before using offensive training, because this you have to digivolve. It says you may, so you don't have to, but then you've wasted it. So realistically, you pop this, because that's basically when your next digivolve, you're able to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, but this, once you use it, you have to go into a red Digimon, which that means that you effectively go into that Digimon for reduced cost of 3, because this reduces it by 2 and that reduces it by 1. That is fantastic value, especially if you're going into your BT6 Savior, because realistically, if you're playing out a system on CL BT6 and you have the right stack of your Barrel Hook and Hookmon BT14, effectively you are just netting so much memory. That GX, going into GX, is nothing but a thing. It's nothing but a thing. You can leave the opponent on freaking 1 or 2 and you're eating well. Especially obviously with the Sakutamon as well. On top of that, you gain that memory back. So this is what I mean by the combination of these two together is very strong. Yes, it bottom decks your sisters, so be it. Bottom decks your Chimera, so does BT6 Hookmon. It's how you play it. It's how you play it. You look at your cards, you look at your hand. If you got a good plethora of Systemon and you just need like, I don't know, an ultimate, play offense training down, get your search on, dig 2, nice and comfortable, treat yourself on the next turn, pop off time. Top of that, if it's propped off out of security, dash. Oh man, that's when you know. That's when the opponent. That's when you look at your opponent thinking, you better kill me now. I'm gonna go kill you. The amount of times that this is propped off out of security whilst having a Master Disciple or 2 Master Disciples set up, you're eating well. You are eating so freaking well, which is nice. So this is the reason why this is the spread. I think these two in combination are very strong, and I think it actually does help out Jesmon a fair bit, because it means that mulligans ain't rough anymore. Our security is a little bit more spicy, making sure that, you know, we can pop off, making sure that we have options. Yeah, and this is the reason why I've actually lowered my white count a little bit, just to facilitate us kind of hitting the cards that we need to hit. Obviously, depending on the meta, another recommendation is going to be the 2 Crimson Blaze. I mean, Bloom, Doggo, Commandramon, many card, Jesmon Mirror, many decks go wide. This just stops that, and can really hinder them a fair bit. If you play this at the right time when Folugamon's going to pop off, yeah, that's going to be detrimental to them actually doing what they need to do, and it just gives you at least a little bit of time for you to essentially, you know, pop off yourself. So definitely a nice cheeky 2 Crimson Blaze is solid pick. And then you could obviously still run the Red Mems. Red Memory Boost is nice. I feel like it probably works more in the OTK variant. I mean, having that nice 2 memory banked up when you need it is great. It's not conditional, which is nice compared to training. It is a conditional thing that you have to do X to basically receive the benefit of it. This is just, you know, just pop it, gain 2 memory to do whatever you want to do at that point. The only issue with the memory boost, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's not a negative, it's just a risk of using it, is that, you know, you can reveal 4, you can grab just 1 red card from amongst them. It means that you are at more of a risk of bottom decking white card being the thing, but getting it out from security, beautiful. If you want to go full consistency, blam, you could just go like that, but I think that's probably a bit overkill. I feel like having these is all you need in order for you to essentially pop off and do what you need to do. I think it's a perfect addition for Jesmon, in all honesty. I was a bit skeptical before, but through testing, it has helped out the deck massively. My hands are not rough. I'm actually able to do stuff, and yes, security is nom nom nom. You're getting the worth back. But guys, that's your boy done. Jesmon GX Turbo BT14, here to stay. Full power. I'm loving it. Really loving it. One of my favorite decks, and I'm definitely an advocate in spreading the news out to the community. But let me know what you think, guys. Like I say, a bit of a long video, but just wanted to really kind of do a bit of a deep dive one on this one, just because I feel like, you know, there's a lot of people saying that Turbo's dead. I don't think it's dead at all. I think it's still pretty strong. And I think with the new cards, well, I say new cards, the trainings being in, I think it just adds a bit more flavor to the deck. And also, obviously, we do have the BT6 Savior. Yeah, that is a new card. Back at full power, really change. It does change the deck up of how you play it. And with trainings and the BT6 Savior, oof, just try it. Just try it. You're gonna love it. But guys, if it gets 50 likes, I will do a Jesmon OTK version and just recommendations on that one. But let me know in the comments what you think. But stay safe, stay fly, and I'll catch you in the next one. Do you dread off the mic?